Black, and this is It's All About Healing podcast. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the art of vulnerability. As feeling is living, when we suppress, we're only surviving. A lot of us are in survival mode, walking around with this armor of strength because we were taught not to feel, not to show emotion. Meanwhile, underneath, we may be crumbling into pieces trying to figure it all out. It's that nature versus nurture, what we were born with versus how we were raised. It's the self-concept, right? A lot of us, we didn't have that self-concept. We have our parents telling you not to talk to strangers, yet they drop you off on your first day of school with several strangers and they leave you there, right? Family reunions, go hug your cousin or your aunt, your uncle. And in your mind, you're thinking, I have no clue who any of these people are. And this really contradicts the whole stranger talk that you guys have been preaching about. But okay, if you say so, right? No explanations leave us with no self concept. We believe in things that we don't fully understand, and it's what brings us to the suffering. It's how we suffer because we don't have a clue why we're doing it or why we're believing in this. And majority of the time, it's us who prolongs our own suffering because we keep leaning on our own understanding or man's. When we suppress, we give birth to addictions, the temporary pleasures, narcissism, codependency, people pleasing, right? And pleasures can blind us from prioritizing God and make us doubt him. And then we start to lean on our own understanding. It's brokenness and misunderstandings that stem from these actions and behaviors that are being displayed. When we believe in things that we don't understand, again, we suffer. We start to disassociate ourselves from our feelings and from feeling emotions. We stay in relationships or stay at jobs we're completely miserable because we have disassociated ourselves so far from living. We are only surviving and we don't feel we can get out of this. This is just my life and I just have to accept it. But we internalize so much, it creates fear that we so often hide. We get into some of these toxic relationships and these toxic work environments because it's the law of attraction. The very thing that we want to avoid is the very thing that we will 100% attract. I have a friend of mine and I asked him, I said, why doesn't he open up or show his emotions? And he said, it's hard to open up, especially to women. And I said, why? Why is it so hard to open up to women? And he said, because they'll use it against you, right? And there's that fear of what or who I could lose, right? And then that made me think about these toxic relationships that we get into because we're attracting that. It's what we're afraid of losing. We become so afraid of the fear of losing them or how they could use something against us. It makes us want to control the outcome of things. And that person wanting to control the one that they say they love just to decrease their own anxiety instead of healing from the pain that burns endlessly. We can want a relationship to work so badly, you can feel it killing you inside, yet somehow you still crave what hurts you the most, asking yourself, what is it? Why do I want this? Why am I staying here? But suppressing your emotions can also lead to you being afraid that a relationship might go well and actually work out. How many of you right now are in relationships where there is no reciprocity or you feel lonely? And I bet there's a lot that are feeling lonely right now. But because you're healing, you're growing, and sometimes you grow apart, but you have to allow yourself to feel that and not just keep suppressing it and pushing those emotions down, saying, this is just it, this will do, this is convenient, right? A lot of these relationships that we're in because we feel that it's convenient for us. But convenience is not a reason to stay. That's where that toxicity is just going to build and build and build and build and build. And that's when the real chaos begins, right? That's when it's all about the fight and not about the issue at hand. It's all about, who can hurt who the most. And we all know that that's a never ending battle. It's just, it just it comes to that point where you just want to hurt the other person. And that's not fair to either of you, because that's not what life is about. You've completely lost just everything. You lost all sight of what it's really about, whether it's about children, whether it's about your own self-worth, right? Like I stated earlier, that losing that concept, we don't really know why we're in certain relationships or why we're doing certain things, because we're lacking that self-concept. And that's what we have to locate. And you locate that through healing, through vulnerability, through feeling your feelings and talking it over with yourself. Everyone has an assignment, right? Whether they hurt us, it gives us wisdom and knowledge. They treat us terribly. It allows us to see what we don't want. And as we go through these lessons, we actually have to apply the lesson. Otherwise, it's going to keep repeating itself. And in order to learn and understand that concept, we must feel our feelings. And God will empty our cup as many times as He needs to, because He wants us to humble ourselves and have humility, right? And He's going to keep emptying that cup because it's what wakes us up. So many people say you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. But so many people's comfort is being something that they're not, right? Because if you were being your true authentic self, you would be vulnerable, right? With proper discernment. Of course, you can't just be out here and just be vulnerable, sharing your feelings and just showing your feelings to any and everyone. Of course not. You have to do it with the proper discernment. So never stop asking for that discernment. But to get in a true comfort zone, like they say, practice what you preach. To be comfortable, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And if being authentic and vulnerable is uncomfortable, start practicing that. It's just like that movie 2012. And the famous quote in that movie said, to see the light of wisdom, we must first empty our cups. We have to experience empty in order to experience plenty. And God will keep emptying us until we gain clarity and we gain that understanding of what it really means to be vulnerable with ourselves, right? Because when we keep suppressing, we hold things in, it confuses our intuition and it becomes harder to channel. When you have those blockages, it's all about that chakra healing. It's very real, because you need to release. You have to release those blockages so you can have that clear channel, that clear communication from within. He doesn't give us more than what we can bear. But you must first ask yourself, can you bear yourself? Can you stand to be with yourself? The art of vulnerability is being vulnerable with yourself first. Record yourself, comfort yourself, heal yourself, When you're afraid of sharing your emotions with someone else or with a significant other or in a friendship, you don't have to necessarily just be like, okay, I have no choice but to just show my emotions. You don't. You don't have to just jump when you're not ready to jump. And a lot of times we jump because we feel that we're supposed to, but that's not necessarily the right thing to do. That's why sometimes I know for me, it was easier for me to record myself, record how I was feeling about a certain person, about a job, or just a situation, and then listening to it a week later. If you have to wait 2 weeks later or a month later, and then when you re listen to it, you find yourself comforting yourself like, why did I ever feel this way? Why was I feeling like that? I should have never felt that way. And it allows you to release the anger, release the sadness, release the depression, whatever feeling it was. It gives you a chance to release it and heal, because you're essentially healing yourself. You're comforting yourself, and you're being vulnerable with yourself first. That way you don't have to worry about judgment of others. It's only you, yourself, and God that's listening. That's literally it. And expressing your feelings, it creates that intimacy. You have that intimacy with yourself. You have the intimacy in a relationship, a new relationship, a marriage, even a workplace, right? And definitely that intimacy that you're able to build with God. That's what you really want, that intimacy to build, and build that relationship. Share your feelings, your emotions, share it with God. And if you feel that you are so, you're just able to disassociate, and you're able to just cut feelings off, and you don't really understand why you don't feel, it's like, bring it to God. Lay all of your burdens down at his feet, because it's he who can give you those answers. It's he who can give you that clarity. It's he who can give you that understanding as to why. Right? He can lay all the right people out along your path to guide you towards him, towards that answer, towards that understanding. But it's he who has all the answers to your beginning and your end. Just like they always say, to you have to live outside of the box, right? But that box is often boarded with ego and fear. Faith and trust are without borders. We have all these trust issues, like I stated earlier, where your parents just drop you off at school when you don't know anybody, and it's like, I guess my parents trust you guys. I just assume, right? But it's the same way with our Uber and Lyft drivers, the planes, the trains. You don't half the time, you don't even see the pilot. You don't see the conductor, but yet you just hop right on there, and you just trust them to get you to your destination. That's faith. That's trust, right? And that's the same faith and trust that we must exercise to have in God. He is the one who has us when we cannot see. It is he who gives us the light to see. He puts us on the right path to see. And that's what it's about. A lot of the time, he will conceal the very things that he wants us to seek. And a lot of times, that's him. He wants us to seek him. He wants us to seek the right answers. But he's going to do that by concealing the things that we don't fully understand, the things that don't necessarily make sense to us. It makes perfect sense to him. Again, his thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. But with faith and trust, it opens up so much, and it gives you an amazing peace of mind when you finally open up and just say, okay, God, I trust you. I don't know the outcome. I don't know what's next, or how it'll all unfold. But instead of bracing myself for impact, I'm finally living. And the only way to live it is to feel. Again, I'm Robin Black, and this is It's All About Healing podcast. Wherever you are in the world, good morning, good evening, and good night. And always remember to stay blessed.